Today on Bones and Stones, we're going to do something a little bit different. We often get asked what is our favorite archaeological find. So we thought we'd invite a whole bunch of our friends on to answer that. We asked them to get creative and we asked them to be a little bit inventive. My favorite find was a conus shell we found in a small shelter in Lesotho. It was found in layers dating to around 7,000 years ago, and at the top of the shell was a small perforation, possibly suggesting that it was hung. And what made this really cool is that it was from the coastline, which is about 200 kilometers away. So we found it in a context we just didn't expect to find something like that in.
Thanks, Tim. Coolest find for me must probably be the first glass bead that we found at Mutamba on the northern side of the Soutpansberg. What's cool about that for me is such a seemingly uninhabitable small little village, and here's this object that came from halfway across the planet, and just thinking about all the hands it passed through and all the stories it could have been part of. So all about passing objects across the world.
My favorite find is actually when we didn't find something. So at two early Iron Age sites in the Kruger National Park, we found almost no cattle, sheep, or goat. Instead, it was hordes of buffalo, zebra, wildebeest, and all butchered in a particular manner. Now these potentially specialist hunters and butchers opened a whole new chapter in the relationship between humans, animals, and technology for the Southern African Iron Age.
What's up? So my favorite find was a rock art site in central Mpumalanga that we named White Valley 3. It was painted in white and in rough brush and finger techniques. The coolest thing about it was that it depicted a wagon dragged by human figures, giving a clue to its chronology.
Hi! The most exciting discovery that they did, it's a rock shelter in southern Mozambique on the border with Mozambique and Eswatini. On this site, it's a rock shelter that has evidences from the Middle Stone Age and the early farming implements. This site is really important because it can help us to understand the different settlement occupations and different patterns of exploration of natural resources in the landscape.
So, one of the interesting archaeological finds that I got to participate in, it's an excavation in Sudan in the Eastern Desert, where we excavated a 2 milli and the human remains were a different color. They were black and they were not burnt, which is quite interesting. And on top of that, there was this nice black pot with incision on it, nail impression, and it had charcoal in it.
Thank you. My favorite finding is a pear-shaped implement from Max River shelter in the Southern Cape. It has got a perforation on the tapered end. It has been suggested that it could have been used as a pendant, but recent archaeological studies and visual traces analysis have indicated that it was spun as a sound-producing implement. Thank you. Over to you.
Hi guys, my favorite find that I was a part of was a small piece of Chinese celadon that we found at a site in the Limpopo Valley. The awesome thing about this was that this tiny little piece of ceramic could have traveled the whole way from China to a tiny site in the Limpopo Valley in southern Africa during the 13th century. It was just so cool to see how interconnected the world was, even all the way back then.
Alright, so one of my favorite archaeological discoveries was a few years ago in Mpumalanga with my colleague Dr. Dominic Stratford. We discovered some previously undocumented rock art that might date to about 1,000 years, and also a very small burial up in a cave in the cliffs of the Blythe River Canyon. So we were really excited about that.
My most exciting discovery is that of a fossil fang from the X cave at Ball's Farm Cave System in the Cradle of Humankind. This is quite significant as it illustrates the importance of acid preparation, and also it is the first described fossil fang around the Cradle of Humankind.
So hey guys, so my most exciting discovery was a rock shelter in the Eastern Cape, Drakensberg, back in 2008. The reason why it was an awesome discovery is because Desia Mwanga and I had been surveying that day for about 12 hours. We were so tired. We spotted this awesome rock shelter from across the valley with the binocs. It was towards the end of the day, so we thought, let's just leave it for the next day. But then we decided, you know what, let's just get it done. Hiked across the valley, walked into the shelter. We just couldn't believe the amount of rock art that was in the shelter. And the awesome thing was that it looked like there were paint traditions from a range of different periods within the shelter. So that was my discovery.
Ooh! It's a bone! So my exciting archaeological discovery was a large astrogonia of a giant buffalo from Classes River. So I discovered this from my sample, my honors sample in 2017. And what's cool about it is I never heard of anything called large buffalo. And yeah, I did some analysis and I did find out that it was an extinct buffalo. So that's what's cool about it.
My most exciting archaeological find was terrace stone walling associated with hilltop occupation in 2017 at a small leopard scorpy site called Matanya in southwestern Zimbabwe. It was exciting because it wasn't mentioned before in the literature and it had regional implications.
Right, it was 2013. We were surveying high in the Maluti Drakensberg and we came across a site completely hidden by indigenous forest. And inside were these incredible paintings, including 4 large, detailed anthropomorphs with headdresses and accoutrements. What made the site so important was that as soon as we saw the paintings, we knew that they posed a serious challenge to the dominant interpretation of such images called significantly differentiated figures. And that was pretty cool.
I was surveying along the Southern Cape coastline, which is famous for its modern human archaeological record, so I didn't have a lot of hope when it came to finding a in situ Acheulean site. But we did. It was a beautiful quarry with a 15-meter exposure that not only had an earlier Stone Age artifact horizon throughout, but the most beautiful hand axe I had ever seen. And that's when I realized this part of South Africa really held a lot of secrets about early human evolution.
My favorite artifact is trash. Old trash from old sites. Because what do we do as archaeologists? We look through middens, we look through rubbish dumps, we find things that people threw away and broke. But they cared for them once, and it's that connection that I look for in artifacts. My first one that I looked at, rubbish dump, was in Rooiberg in Limpopo in 2009, and I probably looked at about 30 to 40 old rubbish dumps since then.
My favorite find is ostrich eggshell beads found in the rescue excavation of an Iron Age burial in the Northwest Province. What is interesting about this find is that the beads were located around the wrist of the individual, indicating that they were probably worn as a bracelet.
My favourite find was at Dreamulin, when whilst excavating one area where we thought we'd find nothing, I ended up finding a partial Dinophelus skeleton. Dinophelus is a false saber-toothed cat and one of my favourite things in the fossil record.
My favourite finds came from the fossil site of Dreamulin. I unearthed a hominin tooth, approximately 2 million years old, and I was convinced it was a new species. I named it Matopithecus ossumensis, and it turned out to be Paranthropus robustus. As you can see from this video, paleoscientists from all around the world unearth incredible finds. It's our passion and our intrigue that connect us to this field, and unearthing the world's heritage is what keeps us going.
You know I wouldn't drop you. No, it wasn't close. It was a perfect catch.